It's been a year since I started renting my office as a graphic designer and content creator, and today we're going to go over the lessons that I learned after 1 year of having my own creative space.
Dreadlabs.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Tom from Dreadlabs and I have been a graphic designer for years now. In April 2022, I took my career to the next level and started renting my own office space rather than working from home. During this year, I've used my office and my recording studio a ton, but I've also used this space to host network events. I used my studio as a music production studio, an art/DIY workshop, and photo studio. Needless to say, I've come across positive and negative aspects of having my own office space. And in today's video, I do want to talk about the pros and cons of having your own office space rather than working from home. So if you are hesitant on getting your own creative space, this video might help you decide. Before we head further into the video, I just wanted to ask you guys if you could subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out creating more videos for you guys, and it actually does make a difference. It's free, of course, and you can unsubscribe at any time. So, back to my creative space. I'm actually renting 2 workspaces in Enter Creative Hub. Enter Creative Hub is an old warehouse that's converted into a space that hosts around 30 small businesses, all of which are somehow connected to the creative industry. There's clothing brands, music studios, photo studios, there's a leather worker, woodworkers, and much more. I'm renting 2 spaces here, my office space as well as my recording studio. Now that you know a little bit more about my space, let's get into the pros first, because obviously there would be pros for this, right? Otherwise I wouldn't be getting this space at all. So the main reason I wanted to get out of my home office and start having my own space somewhere else is because I was still working from my living room. You've probably seen this if you watch one of my older videos, but in my living room there simply wasn't enough room. As you can imagine, I have a ton of art supplies, electronics and other stuff that I need to record videos or create something with, and it just couldn't all be stored in the living room if it still was to be a living room. Besides that, I was also thinking about getting interns since my business was growing and I would love to help out smaller designers and teach them a lot of stuff about the creative industry in general. And who knows, maybe one of these interns could become one of my first employees. I also wanted a space where I could meet my clients in real life because I want to build a better relationship with my existing clients. Usually if my clients are close to where I live, I go to them instead of them coming to me because I couldn't invite them over for coffee in my apartment living room. It just doesn't seem professional to me. Here, it's even possible to have a meeting with multiple people and even do presentations. Another thing that I had to do when I worked from my living room was accepting that this was a living room and not an office space. Of course, I could stash design books everywhere, leave art supplies all over the place and put camera tripods and other electronics wherever I wanted, right? But of course, that doesn't really look nice if you have guests over. And even more important, if I were to do that and I was finished with my work for the day, I couldn't just let go of my work because I would just be sitting in my living room covered in all of my work stuff. Another thing is the quality of my videos. If you're a long-term subscriber, you might remember that I started out making tutorials with my iPhone in my parents' attic. I later used that same iPhone as a camera in my living room. At some point I got a professional camera, which I'm looking at right now, but you could still hear that I was recording my videos in a room without sound treatment. And now I do know that the audio from this video isn't probably the best either, and that's because this is actually the first long video that I'm recording from my office rather than my studio. I just wanted to test out the lighting in my office compared to the soundproof booth that is basically my studio. So if you do have any feedback about this for me, let me know down in the comments. But yeah, I basically wanted to have my own separate recording space so I could just retreat there whenever I wanted to record a video, leave all the stuff there, and I didn't have to rebuild my studio every time I wanted to record something. Back in my apartment, if I was recording a video that wasn't a tutorial, for example when I was doing a DIY sweater, I did it on my dining table and I just had to clean up the dining table after recording, and I had to build this whole recording setup back up the next day. And the final pro is actually networking. Like I said earlier in the video, the building that my office is in houses more than 30 creative people, which can of course make for new clients or cool collaborations. I've hosted around 5 networking events last year, some more successful than others, but it was truly amazing to see people with the same amount of passion come together. But of course, this is real life and I wanted to share some cons as well, because not everything is as amazing as you can see sometimes in an Instagram post or a YouTube video. People on social media tend to glorify everything they do, and I don't really like doing that. I just want to talk about the reality of having my own office space, so I need to talk about the cons as well. Because if you're actually considering this, I think you should know about the cons that might put you off on wanting to get your own creative space or not. Of course, there's the main con, if you want to call it that, and that's the cost. My spaces cost about 500 euros a month, which is pretty affordable if you compare it to some other office spaces in my city. But if you're considering this and you are a freelancer and you don't have any income besides that, you have to take into account that there's actually a pretty steep cost every month, compared to working from home, of course. I'm lucky enough that I have some amazing clients that help me cover this, as well as the passive income that I get from Dreadlabs. That actually reminds me, if you do want to support my channel and you want to help me make weekly videos for you guys, you can support the channel by becoming a Patreon member. By becoming a Patreon member, you'll get access to over 100 PSD files from all of the tutorial videos that I did, as well as a 15% discount in my asset web store where I sell textures, vector packs and more. And on top of that, you'll also get an exclusive role in the Dreadlabs Discord community server. There's also an upper tier where you'll get access to exclusive videos such as how to start your own clothing brand, how to make death metal logos from scratch, and even beginner tutorials for Adobe Illustrator. You'll get access to everything at once and you can unsubscribe at any time. So if you want to check out the Patreon channel, there's a link down in the description. You can also support Dreadlabs by buying asset packs in general. Okay, let's get back to the cons. So the first actual con is actually more prominent than it looked for me. It's travel time. I used to be able to just get out of bed, put on some clothes and get behind my desk and start working. Now there's of course a slight threshold. Now I wake up and I have to put on some clothes and I have to take a 20-minute bike ride to my office space. That is not a lot, but I am from the Netherlands where it rains a lot. I used to have a car, but it broke down last year and I haven't really gotten around to buying a new car yet. But even with a car, sometimes the travel time was just putting me off a little bit and it would really take me out of some creative mindsets that I would have when I just woke up and got to work. Another thing, and this might not apply to you, but I love working late at night sometimes. The more I'm getting older, the less I do this, but when I was living with my parents, I used to do this a lot. This isn't allowed to do in my office space, which of course is pretty normal. And of course it's not the best feeling in the world riding your bike in the middle of the night back home after a late night working session. I usually just want to jump straight into bed. So the next point I was aware of beforehand, but it still affected me more than I thought it would. And that point is that interns take time. I've worked with 3 different interns in my office space so far, all of whom are really talented. It's also safe to say that all of them were pretty independent workers, but it still took quite some time out of my day just having them around. And I don't mean my interns specifically, but people in general. Because sometimes I also work with some other freelancers in my office space. It's not that educating my interns was a problem or meeting with these freelancers, but just being in a room with multiple people can sometimes get a little bit social and you start talking about some stuff and sometimes it just affects your productivity. On the other hand, there were also a lot of moments where everyone would just silently work, and that will actually motivate you to start working for yourself as well, and it actually helps you focus. It's kind of a double-edged sword and it really depends on your character, I guess. Another thing that I personally experienced, and I don't think that a lot of people will actually have this, but it was just something that I experienced myself, and that was that I couldn't really leave the room when there were people in my office present. I kind of felt obligated to stay there and, stay around with them, even though they could just work there and they wouldn't even have anything to do with me. It kind of took some time getting used to this because further down the road I actually started doing this less and less, but sometimes I still have a weird itching feeling that I cannot leave my office when there are people present there, even if they're doing something that doesn't have to do with me. So other than that, that's pretty much it. So far I really enjoyed having my office space and I hope that this video inspired you. Whether you're considering getting your own office space or if you're just casually watching this. If you have any questions about my office or working space, you can leave them down below in the comments. And with all of that being said, I just want to thank you for watching. This is Tom from Dreadlabs tuning out. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next video.